Alright, hello everybody, and welcome to a Musings, a Minecraft Musings. Happy Monday. Um, just putting some thoughts together, relaxing after a long day of work, and not too long though. It's a pretty nice place where I work, but no, just relaxing and thinking and optimism. Like, just being optimistic about the way things are going. Things that we can still be doing, but at the same time, like, we've reached a point where people are scrambling to try to figure out how to fix the world's problems. Like, hand over fist or whatever the phrase you want to use is, like, people are really out there trying. So, I mean, in communication, like, I'll say it again, I know I've said it before, possibly my favorite class in all of college was JTC 413, Communication Technology, I believe. I don't know. The specifics aren't important. What it is that it was a journalism class when I was out there, like, programming, software and stuff and doing all these really cool things with computers and DevOps and engineering and all that stuff, and then a journalism class. So it's kind of like a slap in the face to someone studying computer science, which we need to get away from that stigma as well too, because there was a whole set of, like, I don't know, societal problems with higher education. Like, if you were a CS student, you were this, this, and this. Stereotypes, I guess, is a good way to put it. But there were so many exceptions to the stereotypes of just about every field that, with more exposure, people started realizing, be like, well, wait a minute, like, this isn't. I don't know. It's weird. It's like it was in human history, and then now it isn't. Like, we've just dynamically changed the entire thing. Like, I don't know, going from clicks too. Like, you watch or you have entertainment like Saved by the Bell or something like that to kind of show, like, study. Like, if you're thinking about anthropology as far as, like, you know or modern media or whatever. And yeah, I know there's classes around there that do that. I haven't actually taken any of those, but I can imagine something to the tune of comparing things like Full House with their family values and everything in a half hour to TikToks and YouTubes and now YouTube Shorts, which, granted, I keep ranting in these longer episodes, but I promise one day I am going to go back through and start clipping shorts, which I need to start practicing or do better at having a coherent thought last more than about 15 seconds to a minute. Like, there's your range for shorts. Like, it has to be, well, I guess it doesn't have to be 15. It could be something really catchy, but you get any shorter than that, and then it's like, wait, what? And then it almost seems spammy. Kind of like a lot of these seem, but this is like a journey, no, a journal recording, a recorded journal of my process to creating content. This is all in preparations to create content. I'm creating content, so I don't know. It all seems really cheesy, but at the same time, everybody's out there figuring it out. Like, I was watching this one guy or one person, and they what was I gonna say? Oh, they were saying stuff like, "Oh, I don't know what to think about this streaming." Sorry, I'm not trying to mock them. It was just like the same or very similar stuff to what I say a lot. Like, "Oh, we're gonna do a short episode today," or "Oh, this." And I spend as much time talking about what we're gonna do as actually doing it. So that's just one thing, but observation I've had with other people creating content. And the ones that have already figured it out, like, you know, they either edit their videos to make them like only the best, or they have enough practice to where they are the way they are. I mean, anybody's got the potential to do it, and that's what more and more people are finding out, which is what's so awesome about YouTube, because it is. I mean, it's taking the entertainment of Hollywood and putting it down at, like, low-hanging fruit level. Although, granted, Hollywood's even continuing to raise the bar, and then Bollywood behind them. Like, people will be people. It's awesome. And especially seeing things like the new Spider-Man, like, spoilers if you haven't seen it, has a very heavy Indian influence, and it's awesome. Like, cross-cultural and or more inclusive of cultures, I should say, because we kind of have this way of thinking, which is accidentally true for most of, well, at least American history, is we have certain things like, how do I put that? Hollywood and stuff. Like, we have the Hollywood problems before Bollywood became a thing, and Bollywood was like a direct, like, imitation of Hollywood. I mean, but and not to seem offenseful or degrading on that, like, I mean, I'm not trying to talk down on it. I'm saying it's really cool because people will people, and it just proves, it further solidifies the idea that we're not that different. Like, from me to this person to that person, just depending on where you live, like, it doesn't matter if you're black or white. That was Michael Jackson's, like, a little too forward. But at the same time, like you got to work with the best that you got, and with if you have too much throughput, like with you see it with older generations, but not as much anymore. Like a lot of more, at least so when I was a kid, we had a lot more jokes about how like, oh, grandma or grandpa's generation, like they're a little more racist or they're a little less filtered or whatever, and it's not through any fault of their own. It was just like they were people of their environment. Now, granted, now that we have better communication and as people are finding things out, it doesn't help that like a lot of times when people find things out, like there's some attitude towards it, like gosh, or like an eye roll, or yeah, you think Napoleon Dynamite's goshes, or yeah, eye rolls are pretty bad, and then or just being impatient or frustrated with someone. Like how could, and then that puts some like feelings of like shame and doubt in oneself, and like it discourages people from reaching their true potential, and that's what an unintended consequence of being sassy or having an attitude are. And that's like a way over general simplification, but it's bullying basically. And like we all like to think that there's specific people out there that like that is who they are. They are the villain. When in reality, we're finding out more and more. Well, Scooby Doo tried to teach us like the real villain is just people. People pushed with greed or revenge or any of the humanistic traits that are human. They're not some alien species floating around out there. Like, no, these people do these things. So and people have been trying to communicate that to other people. Like, as soon as they know, they're trying to be like, hey, everybody's just out there trying to do their own thing or they're dealing with their own challenges, their own problems, their own struggles, and making their own stories. I don't know, this sounds like a cheesy intro to a movie. Like, as people weave their own stories. And here's a spike house. Anyway, we got fidget houses. Holy crap. Holy cow. See? Still trying to keep it PG. I mean, everything should be PG on YouTube, though. Just like, you should be there with your kiddo, just like, this is this and this is that. I mean, maybe not all of it, but like, I don't know. Kids are gonna find things out. I mean, you can't keep secrets anymore, especially as we like add more. Because like back in my day, I will say that, like, as funny as it kind of is, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have like, all these devices and gadgets to keep track of us. Like, we could be out doing who knows what, and no one would ever know. So, anyways, without going on too much of a rant there, I think I was getting wood to try to finish this bridge. That was the whole point of that, and then actually got to go do some things and some stuff, but just wanted to put it out there, like, as I was talking with someone, and like we were just kind of ticking things off of the list of like just needs, especially people coming from incarceration. Like, I have a lot of friends and family that have worked in the prison system, and I've had friends and family on the receiving end of the prison system. So, just to further personify that everybody makes mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes are serious enough to land you in a debilitating state where it's almost impossible to be reintroduced into society, at least successfully and without uh, incident. Like, that's why you hear, oh, it's a revolving door of justice. People come and go, and they're in and out. And wait, where am I going with? There we go. We need planks, and then we need that into. Sorry, just gotta focus a little bit, and bada boom, gabagoo. But anyways, no, just people coming from incarceration and trying to make it in public. Like, they need a bunch of extra help because you got to remember what they lost, what was taken away in result of their crimes. I'm not trying to say like justify criminal behavior. I'm just saying like on the other end of things, we need to understand that this is how it is for a lot of people. And if we expect things to really change, and if we expect people to believe what we keep telling them and feeding them, which is what we're doing, because people are honestly trying to, corrections. That's what it's meant to be. The Department of Corrections, at its heart, is meant to be, I'm going to help these people to where they make amends for what they did and then make it to where they don't do it again. But at the same time, and this is the key, the fine print, we're finding out now that it needs to be more of a behavioral and rehabilitationary stance. Like, if you're going to try to prevent crime and actually stop criminal behavior and psychology of criminal activity, you got to take away the factors that lead up to it. I mean, and that's what I keep throwing around. Preventative blue teaming, as far as it's concerned for cybersecurity, is like we can onesie twosie catch everybody that's like scamming people and they'll like do things after the fact, or like once close the barn door after the horse has left is a common phrase in America. Like, well, not that exactly. It's like it's a little too late. Or like the horse is already out of the barn. Actually, I don't even know how the real saying goes. I've heard a lot of remixes and rephrasings of it, but the point is like, you can. There's couple ways, a couple main ways to approach the problem: at the start or at the end. I mean, there's also like everything in between, so arguably infinite amount of possible ways to solve problems. But I mean, it's also reproductive problem solving too. You can either stop it at the source, or you can stop it onesie twosie a million times over at the other end, which, and that's very similar to cybersecurity. Like, as soon as there's a vulnerability or there's some way, and these people are like clinging onto this, waiting for the next thing to drop because their lives are desperate enough to where this, or either to the point where they see it as justifiable, they don't have proper frame of reference to really understand that it's not worth, getting in trouble over, or do they really need like the whole Jean Valjean thing? I was talking about this on the last Musings. The whole point of Jean Valjean and Les Miserables is like the dude stole some bread to feed his family. Like, it's meant to be like at the core of like what you could see is like, okay, yeah, I could see that. If I had a family, and obligations and they were starving and the only way to do it, and then Black Eyed Peas, I think it was, came out with that song like the only way to feed the kids is to sleep with a man for a little bit of money and yeah, it's a really great song. It's deep and they even have like a chorus where like what would you do? And it's like, well, why I wouldn't do it the sleazy way. I would, and that's easier heard than understood. That's all of hip hop's like gangster rap stuff is like, you did it in a sleazy way. You made what was the lyrics? It's like I made a G today, but yeah, you made it in a sleazy way, like selling drugs, selling acts, like, doing these things which granted those things shouldn't even need to be illegal because they shouldn't even be happening in the first place if we had proper control on our society or even enough confidence and faith in people and a lack of control, which is the more libertarian kind of view thing, is like, so much less government that you just leave us alone, blah blah blah. Like that's not necessarily my view. I mean, I like some things from it. I like some things from all of the parties. Sorry. Well, when you get right down to it, it's all people trying to solve the problems that they're dealing with. That's why you get like such a huge divide between Democrat and Republicans, because the small town person or the military person or um, people of a simpler life compared to city problems, but then you have completely whole different problems of country life, like working a ranch, working a farm, or even just having like very limited resources up there and having to, do the best with what you got. Like same with people, like, the well isn't that deep with like, so there's an increased amount of accountability amongst small town folk. Like I came from a small town. And especially if I ran into somebody that I knew back in the day, I'd, treat them with a certain level of respect. But and we don't even realize we're doing it too, because in cities, you almost have to like, well, how do I put it? Because I'm not trying to knock people in city life, because there is a whole different set of problems that you have to solve. So, and it's not just more money, more problems. Like we keep dipping into the hip hop study theory, um, but yeah, with more money comes more problems, more responsibility. With more power comes more responsibility. That's actually a common thread I've seen in like leaders gone wrong, like leaders gone rogue, where and that new Dungeons and Dragons movie, it's amazing though. Check it out if you can. But like um oh yeah, we're chopping trees. We should get some fodder going. I think that's what I was also kind of secretly thinking of. Anyways, um it's where the best of people can fall, especially people in leadership positions. Like they're pushed to make these decisions, and if the results don't come out the way that people had hoped or thought that could happen, 'cause that's the other thing. It's either real or perceived. Like if they perceive this as a possible outcome, like yeah, the president could wave his wand and fix everything. Like no, it's not as easy as that. And same with, as much as I hate it, Biden being more of like a bipartisan president, it means he's going to keep the war machine going. He's going to keep this certain, and to a point that is actually necessary because of how we've built things. Now, to untangle that web of cords, it's going to take a lot. And, and these are the other problems too, as far as like immigration. Sorry, I'm like doing a lot of heavy sighing into the mic because, I advocate both ways and I try to pick like five of like the best arguments from both sides. And they just, I don't know. It comes from growing up with a bunch of more. Oh, there's the alarm. I was gonna make this just a 15. Let's throw another 15er on there. I'm on a rant right now, so yeah. Okay. Anyways, so my point being is I grew up surrounded with like a bunch of one political opinion, but yet a lot of my influences came from family and friends from like more city type places. So, go figure. And there's also like a relative scale of how big religion is in like all these different like cities and towns. And like my small mountain town had tons of church, still does, like, but and then I dated one of the few Jewish people in that town, and we talked about that, like, like how, just being Jewish in like a heavily Christian place seemed weird and messed up, and there was some hardships there that wouldn't be seen otherwise. And my friends and I included, like, we used to joke about like we got Jude, which is pretty offensive in hindsight, but we didn't know at that time. We were just like, it was something we saw on TV. I think I think it was even like we saw it on South Park. But not saying that it's right, but I mean that does kind of force it to the top of conversation, things that you've seen in South Park. And so without the proper parental guidance, like, kids can only draw the conclusions with which they're prepared to draw. They can only put together the dots that they've seen connections with in the past. Like they can only figure out things that they've done figured before. So sorry to say it in a few different ways, because when people try to communicate, they think that they're doing a good job, myself included. Like, I know I ramble, like, it's not the most pleasant to listen to all the time, but every now and then I get a nugget of wisdom, and then I'm gonna, do that, and then make the shorts out of it, and then, but I'm still planning the bike shed. I had this described to me the other day, like, building a bike shed, you get all these ideas for, oh, this would be a good idea, or oh, let's add this, let's make sure it has a lock, let's make sure it's big enough, and like, but they don't ever actually get around to building the bike shed. And that's what a lot of what I do is, like, these side projects, it's all planning a bike shed and no action. I mean, well, sorry, a little bit of action. Like, I'm slowly developing tutorials, materials. I built that Python guide. It's not the best, but it's for beginners, very basic code. Has an encryption algorithm. You can do it in the browser, but it is cheesy. And there's like a bunch of different ways I'd rather rephrase it. But by the time I actually think about doing something on it and then have the time, yeah, the motivation isn't there, because I'm almost like wanting to scrap it and just make a completely new one, scorch earth thing, and just do a fresh, clean slate do over. Or just inspire others to do it. And that's actually where I'm at right now. Because rather than do it, I want to let some other people do it. So I'm actually teaching one of my buddies, well, not teaching. Teaching is the wrong word. He asked me for some educational materials and some pointers, and we'll see where he goes. So if he has questions, if he sticks with it, I mean, if not, that's fine too. Like, I mean, because it could be daunting, and that's what I'm trying to remove. But at the same time, if everybody becomes a computer scientist and an engineer, and and this and that, like, yeah, that's great. But also, like, people need to realize that their fancy living situations are gonna drastically reduce. Not drastically, because at the same time, it's like the stack and the heap meeting as far as memory management goes in a computer. Like, you're building up from both sides that will eventually touch in the middle. I guess that's short circuiting with the electric batteries. But anyway, my point being is we're going to increase the living situation of the most unfortunate person, because that's all poverty really is it's a series of unfortunate events that led to this position of poverty, or this position of lower class, like, or lower caste, or whatever. Like, I mean, we're talking about solving problems on a global scale. I've been to India. It was awesome. And like, they got some problems, we got some problems, and honestly, like, I was in, oh, what was it, I can't remember why I was there, but I was in Oregon, also very similar to that. And I saw just as big tent cities in Oregon, in Portland, off the highway, or even Denver too. You know, like, we've got some severe pockets of poverty going on. And when I was in Mumbai, I think I actually didn't see that many of the like camping areas and stuff. There was some, and there was like some very, very low income, like, kind of cubby wall things. But at the same time, people were walking around dressed nice, like having the gold chains, like, faking it till you make it, and just kind of, I don't know. And it's a shame that there's that pressure that we put on each other in society. It's like, we only trust people that look the fanciest and flashy. Or there's different angles too. Like, and when trying to predict what is going to be the most successful, um, for your business, for whatever you're trying to do. Now, a lot of it, over there, at least that I saw, because I was just, was on the coast, like, was trying to be touristy, like, hook up a cab, be a guide. Even like we had one guy, and we were warned about this. Like, this was, something that happened, was people have found it profitable to guide tourists. And it makes total sense, especially when for the weary traveler that is a little nervous, like outside their comfort element, and some nice person comes by and offers to show them around. Well, first off, you're thinking like, are they going to rob me? Which is an unfortunate side effect of poverty and lower classes, or not even lower classes, class inequality and wealth inequality. So and there's this illusion that if they come from America or some other fancy country, well, they have a lot of money, and so they won't feel that it's missed. And that goes back to that Dungeons and Dragons movie where they stole from people that would feel it the least, is what they said. And I won't give out too much spoilers, but yeah, great movie. Go see it. Because we're all big walking billboards of each other's ideas. And yes, some people it's their livelihood to make these ideas and act these ideas and portray these ideas. But at the same time, look how miserable a lot of Hollywood's elite are. Because they get this influx of money all fast, all at once, like boom, and then they don't really know how to handle it. And they've got a bunch of, colleagues and stuff that'll teach them or like coach them. Because we all want to coach each other. We want to help each other, be the best ourselves that we can be, at least to a point. Like even if it's not like really pronounced, I mean, because there is that level of shyness versus. I mean, I talk pretty comfortable for talking to myself. I mean, at the same time, preaching this to people, explaining this to people. I mean, just recently gave my first speech to like 500 people, and that was like, it was a little nerve-wracking, but I liked it. I mean, not overly over the top. Like, I don't. It's like when you hear yourself and you know how you sound. It's like there's that awkward like, oh, I don't like that. But then there's also hamming it up and really enjoying it. Like, I don't know. It's a fine line of the spotlight, the 15 minutes or whatever. But no, ugh, no. I've just worked with people and known people and seen some things myself. Like, the way that we deal with people and behavior currently is not sustainable at all, and it hasn't been for a long time. And we're realizing that, and the big target is for-profit prisons, where really well, and at the same time we're retrofitting these facilities into something more beneficial. We're changing the way. I mean, it's not perfect, not by any means. I mean, it's well, okay, so think of the idea of like a quota for getting traffic tickets. Like, there's a certain expectation to like, for employing this many police officers, we need it. And I don't know whether that's true or not. Like, rumors and all that. I'm not basing that on any actual fact or scientific. Like, it's what people say. So rumors, just to clarify that. But the idea that the income is based on how many people are charged with how many crimes of how many values because the fines add up and the fines are necessary to pay the salaries of the people working and granted a lot of that is still necessary because if you have someone out there being dangerous to themselves or others like but like how dangerous and how do you change that like are you actually going to fix the problem or just fix it for now kick the can down the road and that's what we're finding we've been finding that out ever since Green Mile and all the Shawshank Redemption, all the like the classic movies about prison life, and people kind of smile and nod, like, oh, okay, I understand now. But then it's like, then we still see people getting locked up for the most, and it goes back to that people aren't people. Like, so many people suffer from this or like have this problem or oh, there's this issue, and like, no, it's just so many people have tried to problem solve in a less than healthy way. Also, where am I going? Hmm. That they've had to, and then they have to problem solve for completely new sets of problems, like things that most people don't even have to worry about. Like, holy cow! Oh, now we got to deal with this. Like, where are we gonna sleep? What are we gonna eat? Like, those are the big things. And like, especially in the midst of COVID, I mean, we have so many people that, myself included, I had to move back in with the parentals briefly. Like, so and be on unemployment. I mean, bounced back out, but still, it's like, it's annoying. I mean. And it's degrading too. Like you think you should be so far and everything, but oh well, at least know you're not alone. And so, into the people outside of the U.S., like, well, that sounds a little conceited too, but anyone living in places that are trying to figure out how to replicate these things, well, I still feel pretty confident about that too, because I mean, I've actually attended a few lectures of global studies of a class that's focused on solving global challenges. So I mean, it's like yeah, it's getting there. Like, so in India, there's an all-woman-owned aquaponics company, And aquaponics, for those that don't know, it's using fish to grow crops. Like you have a cycle where the waste from the fish feeds the crops feed the fish, or there's probably some other like intermediary step, like maybe you feed the fish and then yield the crops for harvest for profit, and then like you can balance that out and make it equitable and really make good business too. And I think that's one thing that we're going to start seeing a lot more of because I did have to take a business ethics class for my major or actually, sorry, my minor. I had a minor in business administration, and part of it was business law and ethics, I think was the actual title. But basically explaining like, this is okay to do and this is not okay to do. And we also learned about copyright infringement in a lot of our other classes. That's why like the whole streaming and content creating thing just always seems so strange to me. But then, I've definitely invested plenty of money in Minecraft to be able to say, or if there was a level, like, because I've bought like, I don't know, 3 or 4 copies of it. I bought a ton of stuff from the store that I don't even use right now that I'm going to regain at some point when I finally reach out and admit that someone that works in IT needs their password reset. It's not even that. Like, I did get I don't know. It's got it locked. It's just, it's work outside of work. I don't know. But really problem solving for if you want to solve the most extreme problem solving, it's for someone trying to come from the prison life back into the community on parole, like and with the limited funds and resources that they have available to them, and then have them succeed without losing their temper, without lashing out, committing more crimes, like just breaking more rules. And that's the other thing too, like being labeled as a criminal, like walk like a duck, sound like a duck, might as well. Like, what's the point? Is what you hear, like or what people have said, and it kind of reverberates through movies and TV shows. Like entertainment as a whole is a collective of human thought and effort to try to tell stories, to try to explain like, hey, this happened and this sucked. So how do we avoid this happening? And it is getting better. We got Mason Place in Fort Collins. There's 2 entire housing units that are affordable income, and I knew there was already a couple that were like pretty ghetto. In fact, we called it Ramble Hood, which I had some friends there, and then there's another one, I forget the name of it, but again, government assisted living, like, kind of more of a welfare thing, but just more support system, safety nets, so these people aren't like on the streets and stuff. And even then, oh jeez, these two just, oh, they're in one now. How did that work? That's interesting. All right, we just an unintended consequence of like some like spider, I don't know, 4-armed beastie with axes and or one of the Indian Hindu gods like Vishnu or Krishna or Kali Ma or I don't know, like not to sound too cheesy like the temples of doom and stuff. I'm not trying to degrade Hinduism, but like the fact that they do it is a polytheistic religion where some of them one of the deities I know has multiple arms. Of course, it's also based on a lot of entertainment that could be pretty racist, and I would have to look it up. You know what? In fact, let's not even say that. Let's just say there was video games back in the day with like this guy that had 4 arms and he fought. That is a very racist stereotype. That's from Street Fighter, so unintentional. Anyways, my point being, in fact, I think maybe we lasted too long, like Walter said. That was the perfect moment. That was the time to go. That was the time to call it. No, not trying to be macabre or anything. No, just time to end a stream, or not even a stream, a video. So that's the point. I wanted to do a video. I'm very optimistic about the future. Things are falling into place. I'm actually seeing a lot of like real improvement that you can point out and say, hey, that that's better. That's better than when I found it. And that's a common Colorado thing to say is like, when you go out hiking in the mountains, leave it better than you found it, or leave no trace really. But it's also kind of like leave no trace from other people too. So if you see trash, go ahead and pick it up. I mean, and that's really true anywhere. Like, use your best judgment. If it looks all sticky and like like you're gonna like catch a disease from it, then maybe don't. I don't know. But like if you, I don't know. I say that, but I've picked up like Kleenexes and stuff and just made sure to wash my hands when I get home. And just know that now that hand is contaminated, and now you don't touch your face with that hand, like, or you don't touch anything that's gonna touch your face. Just know how germs act. All right, there's the alarm for the full rant. All right, hope you enjoyed, but if not, I'm gonna throw a bunch more at you. So, oh, and I do have a system for turning in bone meal. Figured I did, just maybe not over there. Anyways, ta-ta for now. I'll see you in the next one.